Good afternoon, cardiac types. Good to see you again after all this time. I'm glad to be back in work after my wonderful holiday. If you believe that, you'll believe anything. I'm heartily sick. I might appear to have a sort of light-hearted view on all these matters, but take my word for it. Inside, I'm really crying. Had a great time, and thank you for all your good wishes as well. Smashing. Right, let's get down to business, shall we? I've had a number of bits of correspondence through. Some on the discussion board, I think 2, and some by the email. Another few. So let's go through them one by one. Rosalind sent me a nice little summary of what happens to a person in a hospital who comes in complaining of chest pain, and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, I wonder what in Saudi Arabian hospitals is the source of the medical guidance. I wonder if it's American guidelines, the American Medical Association, that sort of thing, or I'm looking at Rosalind's contribution here, and it suggests that the treatment that gets offered is based upon NICE guidelines. Now, I'd be very interested to know whether there was, which way do you look for inspiration over in Saudi Arabia? Is it towards Europe, or is it towards America? My guess would have been that if you're working in the hospital that's owned by an American company, that it would be using American guidelines. That would just be my guess. But obviously, you use as a reference NICE guidelines, Ros. So I'm wondering which way is it? The next correspondence that I had was from Eben. Hello, is that pronounced? Are you pronouncing it Eben? And Eben's considering very carefully now what subject she's going to write for her essay. And one of the ones that she suggested is smoking and heart disease, which is always a good subject. Only if I was gonna say anything in criticism of it, it would be that it's a bit general, if you know what I mean. It's a very large subject, smoking, and I'd be much more interested if you could pick a more precise subject within smoking. For instance, although it's obviously good that a person stops smoking, and it's obviously good that, whichever way they manage to stop smoking bush, which is what tobacco is, isn't it? It's just a bush, really. But are there no cardiac risks to patches, for instance? Are there no cardiac risks to tablets? To chewing gum? Are there no cardiac risks to these e-cigarettes that everybody seems to be carrying around with them these days? I'd be much more interested in evaluation of, yes, we want to get people off tobacco, but what is the cardiac risk? What is the cardiovascular risk? Because it's not just a question of heart, is it? There's peripheral vascular disease as well. What is the cardiovascular risk that's associated with the types of treatments used to get people off? Are they risk-free? I don't know. I don't know. I'd be genuinely interested in reading that. So smoking is a great subject. There's no two ways about that. Great subject. But a better subject would be, in the struggle against cigarette smoking, are there no risks from smoking substitutes? See what I mean? Michelle writes in and she says, would it be possible to have access to all of the unadorned PowerPoint presentations? And I've got to tell you, this has been a real surprise to me. Not just in this course, but in every course that I run online. Someone at some point comes forward and says, "Can I have the raw PowerPoint presentations without the speech?" And I'm at a loss to explain this. Why on earth would you want just a PowerPoints? All they are is a list of prompts to remind you what to say. There's no particular value in them. I, but after saying that, this is such a common request that next time around, I'm not doing it today. Oh no, I'm not doing it today. First day back off holiday. What am I, crazy? But I think it will be worth my while putting a copy of the raw PowerPoint presentation just up, because people appreciate it, actually, you know. And not just on this course, but on all the courses. So it clearly is a popular thing to do. So why not just bite the bullet and do it? That's what I want to do, Michaela. I mean, they did consider me to suggest that if you wanted PowerPoint presentations for teaching purposes on the ward, etc., you could, I don't know, possibly, who can say, do your own. But I'm thinking out the envelope there. I'll put them up. Delphine, you've sent me a load of questions. You've sent me a load of responses to the 12 lead ECGs. That you can do the test as many times as you want. Just keep putting your answers in the multi-choice questions and submit them, and wait until your score goes up. I've allowed you to do them as many times as you want. I'm not going to sit down marking these for you. Oh no, too much like hard work for me. You do the multi-choice question and mark yourself. Rajani, oh yes, Rajani. She sent me a beautifully constructed list of answers. I think it was to lesson 5. Yeah, all the questions that I asked, she's responded to them all. But there's one thing in particular, Rajani, which I liked, and in fact, all you Saudi students I've come to rather appreciate, is boy oh boy, you can't half get decent diagrams up for me. I don't know where you get them from, but they look really neat when it comes to your explanations. Yeah, well done, Rajani. The last one is Sophie. Sophie's got another idea for an essay, and it's our old friend Tatsusugo, or whatever it's called, heart failure, the broken heart. That's a good subject. I have had it before, and what's more, it gets rather considering the amount of times which I've seen it or whether I've heard of it. This is of absorbing interest to very many cardiac nurses, and I can't understand why it is that people are so taken up by this. I have got another couple of suggestions for you, Sophie. If you want to, it's a good subject. Do it if you want. But you know, I'd be really interested in seeing is an evaluation of cardiac deaths among the Arab population in Saudi Arabia. You know, do Arab populations get a lot of heart disease? Not a lot of heart disease? Is the mortality very high? You know, if it's not very high, what explains it not being very high? You know, I would be very interested in seeing that. But you know, the subject you suggested is just as good. There was something else I was going to say then. No, I've forgotten. So run with it. Run with it. Have a look around, see if there's anything on the subject of death rates, mortality ratios of the Arab population for heart disease. I'll be very interested in seeing that. Japanese, for instance, the mortality of the Japanese population in heart disease is really, really low. And I wonder how do Arabs compare to South Asians? You know. So anyway, that's it, everyone. Good to see you all again. Not really. And I'll be in touch.